aspect I can really see being valuable here is our service manager and our GM, they'll go do ride-alongs with guys. The big question is, how can you actually assess what their behaviors are when you're riding with them? Because it's an observed behavior that when you know you're being observed, your behavior changes.
Technicians are the most underrated, greatest salespeople on the planet. That technician deserves an opportunity to earn commissions. No technology will replace human interaction. People buy from people they like, and they stay with companies that they trust. We have built conversational AI directly into the map. That entire interaction is recorded, it's transcribed, the insights are given. Accountability was huge and visibility was huge.
Welcome to the Bug Bux Podcast, a podcast designed to turn you into a bug money millionaire. This episode is brought to you by Bug Bux Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett, and over in the Vancouver Bug Bux Plus studio, my co-host, Jay Claus. What's up, dude?
What's up, Eric? What's up, Bug Buxers?
All right, man. So I don't know. Well, I feel like you guys have had this already. I'm waiting for that time of year where it's like fake spring. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Where like it's cold and then the sun comes out and things start blossoming and blooming, and you know it's like not real spring yet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that happens for us in January. Every January we have a fake spring where it's like 55 degrees. It's sunny for a week and a half or 2 weeks, and you're like, yes, this is great. And then our only big snowstorms always happen in February, like every year. It'll be nothing. You know, Thanksgiving, nothing. Christmas, nothing. New Year's, nothing. And then around like whatever, what's it, holiday? Valentine's Day. We'll get this like blizzard. They'll just come through and dump a ton of snow. And then we get the fake spring right about now. Actually, you know what? This is what spring feels like in the Northwest.
Yeah, for you.
It's cool and rainy like all the time. So
Yeah, we get that in Utah. The way I monitor that is how I take my dog out to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, it's this part of spring. It's freezing. He's taking, it feels like he's taking forever. And then when it's nice and sunny, it's like, yeah, take your time. So you can just kind of monitor that by the dog outings.
Dude,
that makes sense. I can see that.
Like it's whenever like there's not frost on the car when I go out in the mornings, early morning gym time, right? But like the sun will come out, things will start to bloom, and it usually happens like at the end of March. And then all of a sudden it just gets really crazy cold and rainy for a while. And then by like the end of April, it's pretty great. But yeah, I kind of wish I had a fake spring in the middle of January here, like Jake does. That's freaking sweet.
You don't, man. It's manipulative. It's
totally.
You think you'd like it, but it's a tease. It's not a good
feeling.
feeling.
A couple of years ago, we had this. After all the apple trees and everything started blooming. Everybody thinks that Washington State is like, oh, it's the apple state. Like it is. But Washington State is also, known for being the state that has the best fentanyl that your neighbor's catalytic converter can buy. Like that's the other thing that Washington State is known for. But we, a couple of years ago, we had this bloom, right? April, the apple trees, all the fruit trees started blooming. And then this wicked cold freeze came through, and it was in the teens for like 4 days. And it just obliterated the fruit. There was no fruit that year. It's crazy,
dude.
Apple Blossom Festival still happened though.
Have
you been there yet in Wenatchee, which is where I'm from, Central Washington?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, we had the Apple Blossom Festival, and so that year it might have been closed.
Oh, yeah, because there's no blossoms.
There's no blossoms; they died.
No blossoms to celebrate.
Well, you guys listening in. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you've probably seen him. But if you're listening in, you might be wondering who the guest is that you're.
Who is that sultry voice? Right? Who is that sultry third voice?
Fear not, I will get you guys the information you desire. Before we do that, just want to remind everybody listening, the best way to receive new episodes to our show is by subscribing on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, YouTube, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. Make sure to check out our Facebook group, Bug Bux Plus. That is BUGBUX Plus. We have the owners only group that has over 4,900 other pest control owners waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. We also have the Bug Bux Pest Pros group for non-owner team members designed to help them develop in their roles. Joining the groups is the best way to connect with us, share your feedback on our show, and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join one of those groups. Now, I'm going to give you guys some information on the guest that we have today. We're very excited about having him on. It is none other than Jess Regan, who is a seasoned leader in the field sales industry with a proven track record of driving growth, building high-performing teams, and creating extraordinary field sales experiences. As co-founder and chief revenue officer at Paiv, he is dedicated to revolutionizing the way field teams operate through cutting-edge technology, AI-driven automation, and strategic innovation. Before launching Paiv, Jess spent 20 years in the trades and has managed close to $1 billion across pest control, home automation, and solar, where he helps recruit and retain top talent, scale teams, optimize processes, and fuel exponential revenue growth. His ability to blend visionary leadership with hands-on expertise has made him a trusted voice in revenue strategy, leadership development, and business transformation. With a deep passion for people and personal growth, Jess is committed to mentoring, empowering, and elevating others, whether in business, leadership, or personal development. His core philosophy is simple: when people succeed, businesses thrive. Through his work, he continues to inspire the current and next generation of field professionals to work smarter, lead with purpose, and unlock their full potential. Wow. Jess Regan,
And that's
welcome
the
to the
podcast.
show.
Yep.
And that is
Join,
the show.
join us
Thanks
next
for-
time.
Yeah, come again. Oh man, I'm so glad. Yeah, that was difficult to listen to, but thank you so much. And I like how you emphasize the 20 years more than anything. No, it's so good to be here with y'all.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you here. And of course, we're thrilled at Bug Bux to have Paiv as one of our supporting partner vendors too. So thank you guys so much for your support of Bug Bux. You help put on stuff like this, the podcast, Bug Bux Con that we had, all the educational material that we've got. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
of course.
Paiv was for those that weren't at Bug Bux Con.
Shame on
we
you.
missed you. Shame on you. Be there. Be there next time. But yeah, Paiv was one of our vendor sponsors for Bug Bux Con as well as a presenter. And Jess wasn't there, but his guy Taylor was there, and Michael, and they did a phenomenal job presenting and showing what Paiv is all about and how it can help you build and scale. So it's awesome.
We sent the muscles. I don't know if you noticed, but we sent the muscles.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you couldn't notice.
Yeah.
It was funny. So we had these girls that did just a phenomenal job of kind of helping out with the behind the scenes stuff. And I said, hey, this is what I need you guys to do. I need you to mic up the speakers before they go on. And you put on the headset and then you drop the stuff down the shirt and, you hook it onto their belt and you hide all the wires and everything else. And I looked over at one of the girls and I said, hey, that guy right over there, he needs to get mic'd up. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just jacked, like ripped. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it.
Well, when I introduced him before he spoke, I said, "This is Taylor with Paiv. Everybody, just make sure you pay attention so he doesn't tear your arms off."
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody heard me. I don't think Taylor heard me, but I thought it was fun because it's like a pseudo Star Wars reference, also.
We've got gritty team members over here.
Love it, dude. He did a great job. If you guys listening, we're gonna have his, at least parts of his presentation that you can see on bugbuxplus.com. And Jess, maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of background, for the people who weren't at
Sure.
Bug Bux Con and didn't get to see the presentation. What is Paiv? How did it come to be? What's your guys' mission and vision? Give us the details.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for having us there, by the way. That was a great conference, and I think it's not common to get together with a great group of people that have, in some cases might be competitors, who can come together and learn and grow and really have that open market mentality. And so, we appreciate you guys creating that setting. So we are a vertical AI software for the trades, and our mission is to build wealth in the trades. And so what does that mean? That sounds fancy. Really, we want to help pest control companies be able to double their growth and revenue without increasing headcount. And so the goal would be to, how do you expand and how do you grow? Oftentimes we're bursting at the seams And so we hire people to solve those problems. And that's really great. And there's a lot of incredible people out there, but there's also a labor shortage. And so Paiv fills in that gap. And so with us, there isn't a labor shortage, and you can utilize our tool to expand your revenue. So that's our mission. And most importantly to me, as you read in my elaborate bio, it's really important for me to serve businesses in becoming more profitable, retaining good people and just giving them a great experience.
That's awesome, dude. And we've been able to kind of see the tools that Paiv has and how much value that it can kind of bring to the pest control industry. To kind of get a little bit into the nitty gritty, tell us what aspects pest control companies are using Paiv for right now.
Sure. And I'm glad you said right now. We have a theory and a vision around what is needed in the pest control space. Listening to our customers, I was in the space myself for 7 years. I love the pest control industry. I have a lot of great relationships here. And we feel that the end-to-end platform or platforms that exist today are still creating that bottleneck that we're talking about, because they don't fit individual systems, right? And so if somebody has an outside sales team, they might utilize one tool. If they don't, they might utilize another. Dispatch requires an entire floor of CSRs, to run. And so today where we're winning is in an outside sales motion, pipeline management. So if there's a team that is, going into a residential neighborhood, or they're knocking on a business door and they're in a kitchen or they're on a driveway, they don't have access to computer monitors, right? And so we call them the deskless workforce. Mm-hmm. And a technician might be driving around in a vehicle and it's difficult to pull up their hotspot and log into their CRM or FSM. And so we've created a mobile environment where they can live and work efficiently. They can create and manage leads, and that might be face-to-face. They can create and manage training videos and inside of an LMS portal. They can have, view and operate in live leaderboards and gamification. So they can build games in less than 3 minutes to incentivize and motivate their teams and technicians. And then the biggest part of this is in our territory management setting, we have built conversational AI directly into the map. And so when an individual is prospecting or speaking to customers face to face, that entire interaction is recorded, it's transcribed, the insights are given, and then you can also receive coaching from that. And so we've seen this in individual point solutions, we would call it, right? Where they're kind of like, you got to jump over here to do this action and jump over here to do this action. And we've built it all into one place so that what's important to me is workflow, right? Like a lot of people asked us about our games and stuff back in the day. And I'm like, well, the games are really cool, but the games don't matter if you can't do your job really well. Right. And so like, I don't even want to,
right?
Yeah. I'm not going to play a game if I don't know the fundamentals and if I can't sign up a customer and collect a payment and track a lead. And so it's really important for us to solve the work problems. And so that's today. And I'm sure we'll get into the future of Paiv, but that's where we are today. So if you have a sales team, of 5 or 10 reps or more, we really thrive in that environment. And then, we'll talk about tomorrow.
Well, so before we talk about tomorrow, let's talk about yesterday. What were some of the issues and complications that you saw? You've been in the outside sales world for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. That's about how long Eric and I have been in the game also. And we have seen things. I mean, the world has changed. Not only the world, the pest control world especially has changed. Where we started out making 18% selling, that was our commission, selling pest control door to door 20 years ago, and doing paper contracts and all that stuff. So what's been the evolution from your experience doing outside sales to then seeing the need for something like Paiv, and then like your thought process through developing your platform.
Sure. Yeah, I also remember, marking sidewalks with chalk and crayons and, MapQuest and every like the evolution of sales in this industry. And I think where the misses have been along the way, partially it's just technology, right? Like technology needed to catch up to what we wanted to accomplish. Accountability has been difficult in a live setting. And so if an outside sales team is meeting every morning and they're talking about, did they upsell termites yesterday? Like you said, Jake, yesterday already happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're trying, it's in the, so now you're trying to train on what happened yesterday instead of catching it in the moment. And we all know, if you're a parent especially, educating and helping your kids while something is happening is really impactful versus after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so building live accountability, was really important to us so that everybody could see their metrics and see what's happening, their KPIs live. So accountability, was huge, and visibility was huge. Having communication and all of that, in one place to where the team can communicate and see, notifications and updates. Maybe if Jake and Eric are competing, you can see a notification that comes in that says Jake just passed you. Like that's, I guarantee you
Not
Eric's going to be running.
Keep going.
He's like, not likely.
Yeah, Eric will be running to the next door, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all of that, but the overarching theme that I saw was the workflow, like being able to do my job well and do it efficiently so that I can increase my commissions per rep.
Mm-hmm.
So as a sales rep, I can increase my commissions, and so that the company can increase their profitability. And all of those things add up to efficient systems and workflows. And so putting those all in one place was one of the big issues that we saw. And again, headcount to manage all of that.
Yeah, I remember, in the early days, right? Like you get whatever the map book is, you scan it for your
The
service
Thomas
area.
guide.
Whatever. Yeah, right. The guide.
Thomas
The
guide.
guide. Yep.
And then you have a pen, right? And so you go through and you just kind of like mark down what streets you've knocked, and maybe you plan on re-knocking, and then you got obviously all the flyers in your pocket. But me and Jake used to have notebooks. We keep notes for all of our leads, like write them down by hand, and maybe you fill out like, hey, what the objection is, or what their holdup is, or where in the pipeline process they are. But then on the back end, like if you're going to communicate with your team, or if you do have some kind of competition, there's got to be some sales manager or some owner back there who's paying attention to everybody, who's trying to get information from everyone to figure out where they're at. And maybe that information's immediate, maybe it's not, because that guy's busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are all these elements of not just the technological side, but the resource side that come into play.
Yep.
And I love the automation because you're so right. We've seen problems even, like on the technician side, not even on the sales side. So multiple sides of a pest control company where the more that you have to distract someone, or the more elements or different platforms they have to have access to, the more distracted they get from their job, and the less efficient everything is. Like they're texting this, but then they're on this communication platform for that, but then they got to log into this CRM for this, and then they're tracking stuff here, and then maybe they are recording their conversations or trying to figure out what their objections are. But having all of that in one platform with what I think is some of the coolest stuff, which is an AI assistant that you can just say, hey, what's the most common objection I've got today? And it says, oh, the most common objection in this area is ta-da,
That's bonkers.
amazing.
Yeah,
Seriously,
the way.
that's bonkers.
Thank you. Yeah, it is bonkers, and that's what we named it. It's you can ask bonkers. No, the way that I see it is, if you think of a river that has a dam in it, and being from Washington, we've seen a lot of those, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously what happens is it stops the flow, and there's this dam that happens naturally in pest control and other trades between sales and service. And so sales is just rocking, like they're flowing along and everything's going really great, and then all of a sudden, bam, they hit this barrier, and then service is operating in something differently. And so breaking down that separation is our vision. And the part of that happens today is successfully integrating with the largest FSMs in the pest control market. And we are the first company to successfully fully integrate on the front end with field routes. And what I mean by that is there's companies that have integrated with the KPIs and, and all those things. A sales rep never has to leave Paiv. So they can they have an entire experience inside of Paiv that is bidirectionally connected to field routes. It speaks back and forth. And they can even collect payment inside of Paiv. And so they can sign the documents, they can collect payment. All of that is transitioned into field routes. And so for their dispatch and tech services, they can do that. And then we can also even manage the front end dispatch for start techs. Wow. So if start technicians want to live inside of Paiv, we have a calendar and a scheduling and a dispatch tool for start techs. And it uses a round robin scheduling option, or you could select your technician. So that's our, is to break up that flow and to really have a great connection between sales and service.
Dude. Man, that is really cool. So you've seen companies, or you've managed outside sales teams that span across multiple markets. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So one of the challenges that we used to see when we'd have a team that was spread across multiple markets or in several different places is that there just becomes like somewhat of a disconnect between those teams. And then you have a bit of a culture problem because, your team in whatever, Vegas, and your team in Seattle, it's not the same market, right? And so then it becomes kind of like Yankees, Braves kind of situation where you've got these two different teams in two different places, and the culture can kind of get off track. How have you seen Paiv being able to manage culture across all of those different markets? Is that something that Paiv addresses, or have you seen an impact there?
Such a good question.
Thank you. I'm full of them.
So today. I can't wait for more. So the first one is there's a micro culture, and I believe that happens at kind of an office level or a regional level, and then there's a macro culture of the entire company. And where I think some companies get it wrong is where they try too hard to impose their macro culture on these micro cultures that are working.
Okay.
And they're working because individual markets have individual needs. They might have different pest resources or needs. They might have different requirements. And so you can actually help support those micro environments or micro cultures through technology. And the way that we do that, because we can't tell them how to, manage their culture or what that is, but with technology, we can actually supplement how that microculture might function. So let me give you an example. In St. Louis market, they might use scheduling in a way that is different from a Minneapolis market. And most platforms only support a company level adjustment. And so you can adjust scheduling at a team level so that now St. Louis and Minneapolis can operate efficiently how they operate, while still having oversight, right? So a company can still have oversight on how that happens. The other example would be something called wander mode. So for example, in our territory management tool, a team might open up something called wander mode where the team members can go and knock anywhere. They don't have to have assigned area. They can pull up customer data on any home. And then you might go to this other market where the manager's like, nope, like that doesn't work for us. You're going to get assigned territory.
Yep. And if you make a sale and the other guy's on the other side of the street, that sale's going to the guy that you jumped his area, right?
Yeah. And so to answer that question, Jake, I think, we support the micro and the macro culture depending on how the company wants to operate, because we're not here to tell them how to do it. I think too much technology has been telling companies how to run their company because of those restrictions, and we just want to empower you to run it how you know how best to run it.
Does the gamification aspect of Paiv, does that help to unify those teams and bring in that macro culture?
Absolutely. Yeah, those teams and regions, there's a hierarchy, right? And so you can see within a leaderboard setting, You can see those different hierarchies. You can see the entire company, and it drills down all the way into the individual. And then for games, you can do company level games, or two reps out competing with each other can create a game. And so again, it supports from the highest level to the person who's pounding the pavement.
That is cool. That is so cool.
Jess, you mentioned something a little bit earlier that I want to make sure that I touch on before I forget. You talked about bringing up like customer data. So like if somebody goes into a certain area and they've got some service place, whether it's wander mode or not,
Sure.
You said customer data or like potential new customer data. What can you tell us about how Paiv shares that data with reps?
Yeah, so that's included in our package. So we have national customer data, homeowner data, and so anytime you are assessing a neighborhood or a residence, it will pull up that person's name. It will let you know if it's owner, renter, occupied. You have the square footage of the home, which is really valuable in pest control and landscaping. We know the age of the home, and we display all of that information on almost every single family home in the United States. And we're the only tool that I know of for territory management where you can also add units. And so if you're doing a commercial approach and you're talking to individual units in a business setting. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Dude, that is so cool. Okay, so aside from magic, how else does Paiv get that information and put it into the platform?
Yeah, it's only magic, actually. So
Wizardry.
Yeah, no further questions. Yeah, we do have our ways to collect the data. It is, there's public records. I'll tell you what's difficult, because I think there's a lot of tools in the space. What's difficult is to get that data and to display it in a live environment and still have high performance. So if I'm out in the field and I have low bars or low signal, that still needs to perform at a high level and pull up that customer data. And
right.
that's where we thrive is we have learned over the years how to enhance that performance, to record conversation, while it's happening, have the customer data show up, and all of that has to work when you're out in a neighborhood.
Right.
And so
you can't be standing there on somebody's doorstep waiting for the thing to load.
Yep.
And you lose a sale because you're not prepared for it.
Correct.
Oh, man, that is cool.
We're going to take a quick moment to highlight one of the premier sponsors of the Bug Bux Plus platform. Are you running a pest control business and worried about missing sales opportunities? Let's talk about Same Day AI, the game-changing virtual sales agent designed specifically for the pest control industry. This innovative tool uses advanced artificial intelligence to ensure no potential customer slips through the cracks. What's really impressive about Same Day AI is how it integrates seamlessly with field routes and other top CRMs. It doesn't just quote, it schedules new customers directly onto your routes, optimizing your workload without missing a beat. I've seen it in action, and it is truly a sight to behold. The efficiency is incredible. Bookings go up and stress goes down. For any pest control business looking to enhance their sales strategy and boost customer engagement, Same Day AI is your answer. Transform your approach and elevate your service with the efficiency that only AI can provide. Trust me, you'll see the difference. Visit GoSameDay.com to learn more and start revolutionizing your business today. We're going to take a quick moment to highlight one of the premier sponsors of the Bug Bux Plus platform. Are you a pest control operator that's paying for inbound leads for services that you don't offer or are outside your service area? How would you like to be able to get paid for referring those leads to other companies, all while getting high-quality referrals in return? If you're getting calls for jobs you can't take on, Baton has you covered. With Baton, you can easily refer those callers to other trusted companies and get paid for it. It's super simple. Just create your profile to show what services you offer and where, then start referring leads to more than 500 of Baton's vetted partners, all while getting exclusive, high-converting leads referred back to you in return. Every referral you submit not only gets you paid, but also increases your chances of getting referrals from other companies. And don't worry,
Every Baton partner pledges not to steal or poach your existing customers in need of other services that you don't provide. With Baton handling the transaction, you can know that customers you refer are in good hands. For Bug Bux Plus subscribers, there are no onboarding or membership fees. Plus, you can get up to $400 in free referral credits just for being a subscriber to the Bug Bux Plus platform. Give referrals, and get paid. Join Baton today. Go to bugbucksplus.com/Baton to get started. Now back to the Bug Bux Podcast.
And Jess, I'm sure you guys have probably dealt with this. When it comes to recording conversations, right? I can imagine that some people listening are like, "Oh my gosh, is this legal? Like, what do we do?"
It's not. No.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what
Don't do it.
what legal side of things did you guys have to go through in order to develop that feature within your guys' platform so that it was in compliance with privacy laws?
Yeah, so there's privacy laws in 12 states. They're called two-party states. And in those states, you're required to notify that the second individual that you're recording. And so there's a prompt to do that. And so that's actually it's not so much on the technology, it's more on the individual using the technology. Mm-hmm. And it's a really great sales tool to be able to say, hey, for quality purposes, this conversation is being recorded. I want to give you the best experience possible. Is that okay? It's very simple. You can turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
And if they say no, then turn it off. No big deal. So that's what it's
Easy as
simple.
that.
That's how you get around it.
Well, I think that like 15 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I feel like most people would be like, no, I'm not, no. This ain't 1984, man. Well, you're going to read my thoughts next. And, but I feel like in the world today, that's pretty common. Like that meme that you see where it's like in the 1950s, people like, don't talk about that. The government might be recording our conversations. And then it's like 2024, hey, wiretap, what's the best recipe for pancakes? The world has kind of changed in that way, right? So, so when you're seeing your outside sales reps and they're using information like that, how does that then like retranslate back to them to improve their sales performance?
Yeah, the best way that I can speak to that is scaling, right? We know if you've ever spent a summer in sales, or you've tried to build a pest control company, and you're one person or you're one manager, and you've got 40 people that show up, and they're all there within a week of each other. And now you have to do a million ride-alongs, not only in those first 2 weeks, but also throughout the summer. And instead of talking through, difficult objections and really, high-level sales training, you're now doing the basics of, feet up and 3 feet out, and you're going to treat the weep holes. And, you start going over that again and again. What happens is you teach that a couple times, and then you start to let Paiv do the rest, to where when they're out and this is being recorded, now the sales rep can go to their recordings and say, how could I have done that pitch better? What did I miss? Did I miss any upsell opportunities? Did I get the most out of that account? What objections did that customer have that I didn't see? And so now the manager is completely duplicating themselves, and they're creating this virtual ride-along environment where now they're going to expand way, probably 10 times faster than ever before, because now these sales reps become individual experts in a matter of a couple of weeks instead of the first year rep. And we all know that, that the term of the first year rep, and we know the revenue attached to a first year rep, and that's not their fault. They're just learning the ropes, and they're learning this process. Right. And so we enhance the speed of that first year rep becoming a veteran.
And then your manager can see like these are the top 3 problems that my reps are encountering on the doors, and then in your morning training meeting you address those things.
Yes, it's not a guess. Yep.
Yeah.
On the technical implementation side of this, what does it take for a manager to teach the AI what it's really looking for? I mean, every company has a little bit of way that they pitch the service differently, and different markets have different offerings. What does that look like when it comes to teaching the AI what to look for?
Yeah, so first off, I think anybody who's used, Chat GPT or Grok or, any of those, know how deep that knowledge goes, right? And so in a learning language model, the company is going to teach it its methodology, and the model is going to learn from how that individual company operates. However, there is already a wealth of knowledge, and so you're just kind of stacking, that on top of it. And so, like for me, for example, if I'm using AI or Chat GPT, I have a thread that I've had for almost 3 years now that is specific to my company and my needs here at Paiv. And that has become my best, like one of my best partners outside of my actual founding partners, because it knows everything about my company. And so now when I go bounce an idea about it, I've been feeding into this for the last, 2.5, 3 years. And so it's the same thing. It's going to start with this wealth of knowledge, and then they're going to build their methodology on top of that and teach it over time.
So the longer that a company uses Paiv and uses that feature, the better that feature actually performs for that company.
Correct. And even on our end, by the way, because this is, it's still relatively new technology and it's newer to our platform. And so for us, our technology and the way that it's used will get better and better with feedback and with use and all that.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about, the past and how Paiv has come up and, what it's doing right now. So let's talk about a couple other things real quick. So, there's a lot of PCOs and a lot of companies that, people are listening to the podcast, and they may not have an outside sales team. So how does Paiv adapt to those types of companies?
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of been our starting point, right? And there's a wealth of knowledge there for me and for the other founders. But we believe, like I said before, that there's a flow, and that originally these things have lived in silos, right? With sales and service. And so we want to break into each silo and connect them. And so what we're building today is solutions that will fit into the service side of the business, and that will allow the current technology today. They call it agentic software, which is agents. And these agents are able to come in and do work for you. And I know that sounds really scary, by the way. Like, if you're working from a spreadsheet today, and then we're talking about an artificial agent, like that's just, it sounds very Terminator.
Yeah.
Matrix stuff.
That's
which, by the way, that's a connected story, by the way, if you don't know that.
I did. I saw the conspiracy reel on it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to scare people, because the other thing about Paiv is that it looks simple and acts smart. And so anybody can get in to use it. I've built it so that, not our CTO, I should not take credit for that. Our CTO and our tech team have built this so that it's so intuitive and so easy to use that if you're going from a spreadsheet to Paiv, that's okay. Like we will hold your hand, and we'll take you the rest of the way. And so for those people who don't have outside sales, managing a pipeline, managing the customer experience, you can still incentivize technicians and service teams with the software. And it's a really great way to adopt it on the voice side as well. So if the technicians are having in-person conversations, you can still utilize that. You can utilize the training videos, the leaderboards. And so we have companies across the board that adopt the software today, also knowing where we're headed, where they're kind of like, we want to get in early to see how this is going, because they're quickly building the future. And we really want to be able to serve the technician side of this as well, and the back office.
Yeah, on the tech side, I mean, we talk to our service manager and general manager all the time about ride-alongs, right? It's like, hey, I need you to, get out in the field, get out in a truck and be there with these guys on site. Because just like you were saying, being able to provide real-time feedback is so valuable. Like the action level of that is so great. If you wait until a customer has a complaint and then you go out with a technician and you're like, yeah, dude, what you just said was ridiculous, or the way that you're performing the service is bad, who knows how many services that guy has already done that on. And
Right.
then you're going to have to clean up that whole problem after the fact. So
Yeah.
being able to have the technicians utilize that just from a coaching standpoint where, they're talking to the customer and saying, again, on those two-party states, like, hey, just for quality assurance, just want to let you know this conversation is being recorded. We want to deliver the best experience to you. How was your service today? Is there anything else I can help with, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about getting reviews, talk about everything else,
Yes.
quality assurance. All that stuff is so good. And the manager, the service manager, can actually do a lot of the back end work from their office where they can see what the trends are,
Yeah.
what all that stuff is. So a huge opportunity for people that don't even have outbound door teams yet.
Yeah. Well, and technicians are the most underrated, greatest salespeople on the planet. And it's okay if they don't want that title, because their customer service and their ability to connect with a customer, they are, salesperson signs a contract and they're gone in general, right? And the technician is there, and if it's a common route, they see that customer at least every 2 to 3 months, especially if they're going inside the home. And that technician deserves an opportunity to earn commissions and to earn extra revenue for them and their family. And I think for me, I get passionate, I get almost emotional, if you can tell. Like I want them to have the opportunity to support their family in the same way that this person that's out, knocking doors or pounding the pavement is. And they want that opportunity, and we believe that, and we want to make it easy. And so that's where, this comes in, as it's kind of like, if you're talking to this customer, have you thought about offering this? 60% of your customers in this area are doing rodent monitoring. Have you offered this customer that service? And so that's where it comes in for them.
Another aspect that I can really see being valuable here is, like Eric mentioned, our service manager and our GM, like they'll go do, and our fire team leaders, they'll go do ride-alongs with guys, right? Well, the big question is, how can you actually assess what their behaviors are when you're riding with them? Because it's an observed behavior that when you're being observed, your behavior changes. And I've even noticed this in the animal world. I don't know if I saw this thing recently where it was a wildlife videographer who does, video for whatever, Nat Geo or whatever. And he was saying that when they're filming an animal in the wild, the animal's behavior will actually change when it knows that it's being filmed. And how the animal knows it's being filmed, I don't know. But they say, like, as soon as you turn the camera on, the animal's behavior changes. I mean, you can see it, like the animal like look directly into the camera, and then it's like, so cool or whatever. But like how? But so that's the question, right? How do you get actual real time feedback on what your technician is saying and doing when your service manager is sitting right there next to him? So if you've got this technology where you can go back, you can have AI like summarize the conversations and find the holes, then you're getting like actual real time, real true to life feedback on how they're performing. Is that a correct assessment, do you think?
I think so. And I think it's also important to state that we really want to support that individual, right? Like we don't want to feel like it's turning into the manager can see everything. And so therefore, not
Not 1984 is what you're saying.
we don't want that. We want the individual to feel empowered in their job so that they can increase their commissions and their paycheck, and that they can become a better service technician or a better sales rep. And I would say 90% or more people love that. They're not worried about somebody checking their grades. And supporting that individual is so important and empowering them to do well. And then of course that's going to filter up, through the rest of the company. And support the culture, but compliance is important too, though, right? Like making sure that we're saying and doing the right things.
I think it's really cool that just like we were talking about being able to evaluate, and like Jake was saying, having a true indication of what that behavior is. And I do think that having those feature sets, like a technician that knows, like, hey, this is getting recorded. What's funny is even if he doesn't think that is going to be listened to by a manager, just the act of recording yourself, you act a little bit different, right?
Oh,
There's
totally.
a different part of your mind that you engage in. Like, me and Jake have done this. I'm sure you've done the same, where you like stand in front of the mirror and you like practice your pitch, or like you record yourself speaking for like an engagement or a presentation, and you're just a little bit more turned on, right? You're a little bit more engaged.
You get turned on by watching yourself in the mirror give presentations.
I mean, I don't want to scratch my
Somehow
own
that
back or
doesn't
whatever.
surprise me that Eric gets turned on watching himself give presentations.
It depends on the kind of presentation. Okay, we're getting way
Oh,
off
sure,
topic here.
sure, yeah.
But
That's a different episode.
the thing that I think is really cool, and you mentioned this, is that it's about empowering the technicians to have the tools that they need to be able to produce more and have better opportunities.
Yeah.
And that kind of circles all the way back to company culture. The culture of the company isn't just, hey, here's a job, go out, here's your set, job that you have to do, your duties or whatever. And if you mess up, we're going to come down on you and change your behavior. It's, hey, here's an opportunity. The sky's the limit. Here are these really cool tools that you can use to improve your performance on your own, right?
Yeah.
These technicians and sales guys can ask the AI already, like, hey, man, what am I missing? What's the main objection? What could I have done differently? What kind of upsells do I have here? And usually that requires a ride along and a tech manager or team leader to evaluate you, them to
Yeah.
be able to understand what's going on, deliver the feedback, and then it actually requires the guy to act on it.
Yeah.
That whole process, like you're talking about, I mean, what a huge dam in the river.
Right. Yeah, and there's the other side of this too, because I want to make sure that we speak to both sides. The other side of this is that we have a veteran professional who knows what they're doing, and they might have like a really high closing percentage. They have a really great review for how they do the service, and so they might not need all of that feedback, and yet they still need to be able to do their job really well. And so oftentimes we're giving them a paintbrush to drive in a nail. And then telling them to accomplish their job. And so what's really important to us is to make sure that outside of all of these cool things that we offer and these add-ons and these enhancements and all that, it's really important for the veteran to know we just want to make their job easier. We want them to get home to their families sooner. We want them to be sitting at their family's table for dinner instead of the customers. As much as we love the customers, that's cool. But like, let's put them at their family's table that night.
Okay, let me just move forward one more second here.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, technology is screaming forward at an alarming rate. Like, it's hard to keep up, So where do you see, what do you see as the future for outside sales? And how does Paiv keep up with that technology to stay at the forefront?
So I'm a firm believer that no technology will replace human interaction. And so there is a reason why outside sales and direct sales has the highest the highest form of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Success,
It's success,
conversion?
but conversion. Thank you.
Yep.
It's the highest form of conversion because humans need connection, and people buy from people they like, and they stay with companies that they trust. And so for me, and you'll see like the top 100 pest control companies or the top 100, X home service companies, roofing, solar, whatever, almost 100% of them have outside sales motions. And so if you want to scale to a certain point with an inside sales or inbound or marketing, that is incredible, and you need it. Like you should have every tool in your bag that you possibly can. But I don't think that anything will ever replace human connection. And so the other side of this for me is that's the customer and that's the revenue and all that, right? The other side of this is human development. And, there's a 19, 20-year-old kid who wants to, get into sales or service and wants to start a business at some point. And this is school for them. They might not go to college. They might not earn a degree. And so in the trades, the way that you can earn that degree is by pounding some pavement, knocking on some doors, cold calling some individuals. And that might even be on a phone, by the way. Doesn't just have to be on a door. And so by creating those outbound systems, and that's maybe how we refer to it, is instead of outside sales, it's outbound, and that might be on a phone. That is going to develop the marketing execution of your company in a way that you won't be able to do it if you don't have it. And so that's, yeah.
That's put very, very well. And one thing that you said in there that I just want to highlight so I don't forget it was people do business with people they like and they stay with companies they trust. That's killer. And it's really refreshing, with all this AI automation stuff going on. It's really refreshing to talk to somebody who's an industry leader with an AI element, touch on the human connection requirement in the sales process, right? Because it's huge. It really does make a big difference. And I think people are getting a lot more comfortable with technology. But in a world filled with AI, personal connection is still king.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. And what I'm seeing, there's companies that have gone away from outside sales. And I've watched the trend in the industry and in pest control. And within 2 or 3 years, they are hiring marketing sales teams. So then they go out, their retention dips, the inside sales motion is not working the way that they thought. And so then they go out and they hire a marketing sales team to come in and sell for them, for that season.
Yeah.
And that's happening quite often. And it's not saying that inside sales motion is not extremely valuable and more powerful than it's ever been. It is, and we want to utilize that at Paiv as well, and serve that side. But the trend is also that people continue to go back to this human interaction because the conversion is so fast and so high.
Yes.
And retention can be high. Retention is a service thing, by the way. I think
Yes.
everybody relates retention to that first sales rep, and they might even blame it on the first sales rep and how they set it up. What happens after that initial interaction is on the company to provide a world-class 5-star service, and then that customer is going to stay and be retained. And so when I coach companies on recruiting and retention, which is I would say my expertise, is we teach them that, you can't blame a sales rep for retention. And if you are, then that is the first gap in your company.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If a sales guy is selling the service the way that it should be, right, which is your responsibility to get him on board with,
Correct.
then there's no way that you can blame that sales rep for a lack of efficacy on the service side of things, right? People and customers will say that, right? Like when they have a bad experience, they'll be like, "Oh, I wish that guy never knocked on my door," or "I didn't even call you guys. You guys knocked on my door," or
You guys
whatever,
came to me.
Yeah.
right?
That's the
But
funniest,
really,
specious argument for.
yeah, like if somebody knocked on my door and sold me a service that was really valuable to me, I would be even more glad that they stopped by, right? Like you're telling me you bring solutions to my door, I don't even have to call anybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
So customers say that, but I love that you pointed that out. It's not necessarily a true indication that there's a problem with the sales team there. It's a service related issue. Jess, we're running out of time, which is horrible because this conversation has been great. And again, we're very, very excited to have a partnership with Paiv and to have you guys bring your solutions into the Bug Bux community. If people want to get a hold of you, if they want to schedule a call with Paiv, if they want to see what Paiv can do for their company, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can follow us on Instagram, so Paiv Official or at Paiv Official. Paiv.ai is a great resource, and so they can hop on and schedule a demo. Kind of look at some of the features that we've talked through. They're hard to visualize on a podcast, and they can get a hold of me individually, Jess at Paiv.ai, so they can email me. And I would say too that my mission and our mission goes beyond the software, and we really like to help companies scale and build their business. And so even if somebody didn't use Paiv and they want to reach out and talk recruiting and how to build massive sales and service teams, it's something that I love to do, and I love to give back in that area. And so feel free to reach out and we can talk recruiting.
Love
Nice.
it, man.
Cool.
Jess, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for all the support that you show the Bug Bux community. And for everybody else that's listening, of course, thank you guys for taking the time. If you have a coworker or a manager or an owner who could benefit from listening to this episode, the best way to say thank you to us is to share this episode with them. If you haven't joined the Facebook groups yet, go find the groups and join. It's Bug Bux Plus. Lots of information and great connections there. And if you have a topic you want discussed on the show, drop it in the group. As always, this episode is brought to you by Bug Bux Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. Visit bugbuxplus.com to sign up and start building today.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks again for listening in, and until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
Thanks, y'all.
You're listening to the Bug Bux Podcast, hosted by Eric Bassett and Jake Claus.